In 1991, Jermaine Jackson dropped one of the nastiest diss tracks ever, Word to the Bad, taking a shot at his younger brother, Michael. The title was a play on Michael's 1987 album Bad. But why did Jermaine diss Michael? Did the two ever make up, and how did it impact Jermaine's career? Here's the story told from Jermaine's book, You Are Not Alone, Michael Through a Brother's Eyes.
He's known to have had this sort of problem when he's overexhausted or overworked. It's nothing new. The 31-year-old singer-songwriter has been hard at work on his new album called Decade, and according to spokesman Bob Jones, Jackson was particularly distraught over the recent deaths of both his maternal grandmother and entertainer Sammy Davis Jr. Fans gathered outside St. John's Hospital in Santa Monica, California have been loyal, but have learned little about his...
I heard on the television news that Michael had been taken to the hospital with chest pains. It was June 1990, and he must have been staying at his new condo in Century City because he was in the emergency room at St. John's Hospital, Santa Monica. I remember thinking, I need to be there or he'll have no one with him. The rest of the family must have been out of town. In the hospital with Michael, Jermaine writes, We caught up on everything, and then I told him my big news. I was moving to Atlanta to start work on a new album in the studio of two of the hottest producers around LA, Reed and Babyface, who had founded LaFace Records, in a venture with Clive Davis and Arista. These guys are going to be my Quincy Jones, I told Michael. An indication of how excited I was about the opportunity. He wished me luck. Just make sure you do your own melodies, he said, throwing in some late advice.
See, it's been a long time getting this album together, hasn't it?
Yeah, about 9 months or more.
But you moved to Atlanta to do this?
Yes, yes. I went to Georgia November last year.
What took you there? Was it to do this record, to be with LA and Faith?
To do this record, absolutely. I felt with the type of producers they are and the things that they've done in the past, in order for us to really get into just making a great record, I wanted to, be there with them and get to know them, hang out, and it worked out fine.
Jermaine, his then wife Margaret and children moved to Atlanta so he could start work on the album that would become You Said. Contacting LA Reed's and Babyface's people to find out the start date of the album, he was told there had been a delay. 3 months had passed and work still hadn't began on the album. Jermaine became frustrated because his whole purpose to moving to Atlanta was to work with LA Reid and Babyface, and 90 days have now gone by. Jermaine writes in his book, Eventually someone at the record label called to give me the heads up. They told me I wasn't going to be happy about it, but they thought there was something I should know. LA Reid and Babyface were working in California with another artist. I was furious. No wonder they didn't have the guts to pick up the phone and tell me themselves, I thought. Who's this other artist? I asked. That's the bit you're not going to like. I was told why? Who the F is it? It's your brother, Michael. I put the phone down and Margaret asked me what was wrong. I couldn't tell her because I couldn't find the words. I was too busy fighting the forces of gravity as my head spun with questions. Michael had shared my excitement about my project. Why would he retain the very same producers? Why, when I was committed to LaFace Records, wouldn't they have the courtesy to tell me? Why would everyone go behind my back, leaving me hanging in Atlanta? Over the coming weeks, those questions festered unanswered. I heard nothing from the producers or my brother. I was contracted to LaFace Records and obligated to Arista for one more album, so I had no option but to wait for my producers and get used to the sour taste in my mouth. But when they were finally ready to start work, it turned out that they, too, were upset with Michael. I don't know what studio setup LA Reid and Babyface had expected with my brother, but I don't think it included the prominence of his preferred audio engineer/producer Bruce Swedian. He was integral to capturing and finessing Michael's unique sound over the years and was viewed as indispensable to his production team. At Michael's insistence, he always sat behind the boards in the control room. Something about Michael's reliance on Bruce didn't go down well with LA Reid and Babyface. Nor did they appreciate the fact that Michael wasn't going to continue with any of their songs. That, I think, was the real slap in the face. That much was obvious when, during a phone call, they shared a hook from a song they had already written for me called Word to the Bad. The hook that resonated because of its implied selfishness went like this. It ain't about your world. It ain't about the things you do. If you don't care, I don't care. You keep thinking about you. You've been taking all of my pie. You've been taking for a long time. The lyrics they had written in anger met with my still brewing anger toward Michael. Not only that, all my pent-up energy to get into the studio combined internally with a deepening sense of injustice. It was a perfect emotional storm in which no one was thinking, just letting fly. If a studio session is an outlet for anything, it is for releasing unexpressed emotion. Music can be cathartic that way, and I won't have been the first artist to arrive at the mic with an intention to get it all out. When I arrived at the studio to start work, I was presented with the finished song, and L.A. Reid and Babyface had come up with one particular verse that went like this. Reconstructed. Been abducted. Don't know who you are. Once you were made. You changed your shade. Was your color wrong?
I have a skin disorder that destroys the pigmentation of the skin. It's something that I cannot help, okay? But when people make up stories that I don't want to be who I am, it hurts me.
So it is.
It's a problem for me, okay? I can't control it, okay? But what about all the millions of people? Let's reverse it.
Okay.
What about all the millions of people who sit out in the sun to become darker, to become other than what they are? Nobody says nothing about that.
So when did this start? When did the color of your skin start to change?
Oh boy, sometime after Thriller, around Off the Wall Thriller, sometime
And what did you
there.
think? I mean,
It's in my family. My father said it's on his side. I can't control it. I don't understand. I mean, it makes me very sad. I don't want to go into my medical history because that's something that's private, but that's the situation here.
Michael had a skin disease called vitiligo which destroyed the pigmentation of his skin and caused it to change colors. It was confirmed in his autopsy when he passed away in June 2009. Before Michael told the world about his condition, Jermaine was aware of it and should have never sung those insensitive lyrics knowing what his brother was battling with for years behind the scenes.
Well, it is true what he was saying about his skin problem, and I was so happy when he said that because I always knew he had this problem, and I always said, Michael, why don't you let it be known that you have this skin disorder?
Because they kept saying that he wanted to be white.
I know it's private, but I also knew that it affected him, that people were saying that about him.
It's private because Michael would have said, I have a skin problem. He would say, oh, he's dying of cancer.
Exactly.
Oh, he has this, he has that. So that's
he has AIDS.
But not to put you on the spot, Jermaine, but didn't you kind of exacerbate the sense that he had intentionally changed his skin color with that song?
That was creative anger.
Jermaine writes, it was a clear dig at Michael, and I knew it. Those lyrics were consistent with a mistaken perception about him, and I didn't agree with them, but I did agree with the angry tone. I was mad. I embraced this secret retaliation. The moment that song sheet was in my hand, I was singing with an anger that therapists would have applauded, even if Michael's fans would not. In my naivety, I didn't expect for a single second that those words would be heard outside the audience of 2 producers and 1 engineer because, in my mind, they were lyrics never intended for release. After I'd laid down my angry vocals and felt much better for getting it off my chest, we recorded another version. The intended version of Word to the Bad, featuring T-Boz from TLC, kept the same hook but ditched all of the innuendo toward Michael. I didn't think about it again as we went on to cut the rest of the album, due for release in 1992, which included my biggest hope, a high-energy song with an explosive beat that never lets up. It was called You Said, You Said. I can't remember where I was when the bomb dropped. I just remember a phone call asking if I'd heard the radio, and that was how I found out that the angry, bootlegged version of Word to the Bad had been leaked. Someone had found it irresistible, and it was receiving blanket airplay on a radio station in Los Angeles and its affiliate in New York. Some smartass DJ had a field day alternating between the lyrics, You changed your shade / was your color wrong, and Michael's soon-to-be-released single, Black or White. I was mortified.
Here comes Brother Jermaine. Listen to the lyrics. Everybody's talking about this one. It's called Word to the Bad. What do you think he's talking about? From Hot 97.
Jermaine did many interviews to try to explain the situation and clear his name.
Who'd have reason to leak the record, Jermaine? Who'd have something to gain from doing something like this?
I really don't know. I really don't know. I wrote it in the first place, Brian, because I was angry during the time. Michael's my brother, but I was angry. We're creative people. I couldn't get to him, so I put it in a song. You know, my frustrations, I put it into words. If this was a publicity stunt or whatever, I would have called my album Word to the... I would have done it up right. I would have called my album Word to the Bad. I would have stuck it out there, and I would have stood by. Yes, I wrote the song, and I wrote it from my heart. I have a single out there called You Said, You Said. That's the name of my album. There's no way this was a publicity stunt. It leaked out. It's out there, and I got to deal with it. But I'm standing by it.
Jermaine wrote in his book that Michael called their mother and wanted to double-check that it was actually Jermaine singing those lyrics. He couldn't believe that Jermaine would do such a thing. L.A. Reid wrote in his memoir that Michael called him angry, telling him, "You have to stop this. You're the head of the label. You have to kill this." Reid said Michael called him again a couple days after to put a stop to it. Reid writes, "The record disappeared off the air, as if it had never been there in the first place. I don't know what Michael did. I don't know if Michael did anything, but it went away in a flash." Jermaine writes, "Mother has always been one for brokering peace in the family, and it was she who called a meeting at Havenhurst so that we could speak one-on-one. Don't listen to the media," she told Michael. "Don't listen to your advisors. Listen to what Jermaine has to say, and sort this out like brothers, like men." For the first time that I could remember, we were going to confront an issue face to face. We were going to point to the biggest, fattest elephant that had ever taken refuge in one of our rooms, and we were going to call it what it was. The meeting took place at Havenhurst with Michael, Jermaine, Catherine, and Joseph. Recounting the meeting, Jermaine writes, "We used to be close," I said, "but it's been 8 years. 8 years, Michael. 8 years that we haven't spent proper time together. I'm speaking for all of us. Not just me." He looked at me. Now we had eye contact. I continued, "In those 8 years, everyone has said everything they can about this family as if they know us and know you. And we should have stuck together, but you went off and for those 8 years you thought I deserved that song?" He interrupted. "That is hurtful, and I didn't expect that. Not from you, Jermaine. I didn't write it. You sang it. I sang it when I was upset. But those lyrics don't reflect how I feel about you, and you know it," I said. "You put your voice to those lyrics," he said, forcing his point home. I could see in his eyes how hurt he was, and it killed me, knowing that I was responsible. "I'm sorry I hurt you," I said. Jermaine expressed to Michael how he doesn't return calls, spend time with family like he used to, and that his inner circle was keeping the family away, which was Jermaine's reason for doing the song, to bring him back to reality. Jermaine said, "We both stood, gave each other the biggest hug and said, 'I love you,' almost in unison. From that day on, Michael turned up at more family days, even if he never again became regularly available to us, as he had been in the old days. The main thing was that we had cleared the air. To this day, some of Michael's fans hold Word to the Bad against me in a way that he did not. But ultimately what mattered was forgiveness between brothers. The diss track really hurt Jermaine's career and image, causing many fans to turn against him and view him as a jealous sibling. It's something that forever haunts him, but he has always defended his brother Michael against false allegations spread against him in the media. Feeling Michael snuck behind his back and hijacked his producers, and upset he wouldn't answer or return his phone calls, Jermaine felt his song at the time was warranted. Babyface and L.A. Reid were mad their songs didn't make what would become Michael's Dangerous album. They retaliated by writing the song, something Michael didn't deserve from either party. What are your thoughts on Word to the Bad? Let me know in the comments section. If you enjoyed this video and want more stories behind the scenes, more stories behind the songs, and more stories behind the siblings, which is the Jacksons, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more. This page is ran by the Jackson 70s and 80s Instagram page. Be sure to follow and leave a message. God bless.